Today I am taking you behind the hoop guts of my latest finish. This is from my Inspired by Imagery series. I'll turn this little light off so you can see the cover even better. So this is inspired by a Joni Mitchell album. I saw this album cover, immediately was drawn to it. I've always loved Joni Mitchell, but this cover, just out of all of her covers, I think this might be my favorite one. The artwork is by her. If you read the liner notes inside, it's all by her, which is really cool also. So let me take you behind the hoop guts of this hoop. Well, you'll notice I just made the mistake of calling this a hoop. It is most definitely not a hoop. Most of the projects that I do are in a hoop. And if you've seen some of my latest works, all hoops, all embroideries in hoops. This is different. So this is, let me take you behind the hoop guts. This is a wooden frame, and I do have a video on, if you want to try attaching your embroidery to a wooden frame, a how-to on how I did this, so you can do this yourself. So I had a wooden frame that I found at AC Moore. I've held onto it for years, knowing that I wanted to do something with it, waited for just the right project. And I figured that an album cover, which is already square, is the right project for this. So you can see lots going on my hoop guts. My satin stitching always looks like this from behind, because the way that I do satin stitching, if you notice, I just did a class for John Bead, a trio of Cosmos. I'll link that as well, because I go into detail why my satin stitching looks like this. I don't save thread when it comes to satin stitching, and that will make sense once you work through it, and you can check out the video to find a more detailed description of that. So I love the back of this. I just think it's so cool. I used a lot of tapestry wool, and you can really see the texture in the back of these stitches. I'll take you around now to the front. So yes, looking at the album cover and the finished project, I began this with the lines. The lines really stood out to me. You'll notice there's a profile face. I didn't incorporate that into it, but the lines were the first thing that I saw that caught my eye, and I wanted to work on with this project. So that's how I started. I just free-handed this and drew my lines with a ruler, and then I stitched them. This is all backstitch. I'll let you see really close. This took me forever. It took so much longer than I thought it was gonna take. And I used all neutral colors because I wanted the brown lines to stand out, but I also didn't want it to be exactly the focal point of this hoop. So I added some larger beads, all the same colors that I was going for with this. I left some open spaces where I added sequins, and these are the pre-cut wool circles from Sue Spargo and Wonderfill specialty threads. I loved tossing them into a project when I get the chance. I've got my sequined sun here with lots of browns, and then the rays of the sun extending out. I added the leaves, and I'm looking at the album cover. So there were leaves along here, this pretty little flower with kind of like the loosely drawn leaves. I added that in here. Let's see, lots of satin stitching. The leaf, I wanted to notice the color, but I didn't want it to be very heavy because everything else on the hoop is very heavy. It's all completely filled up. So I wanted this to take up space, but I didn't want it to be completely filled in. So that's why I used a lot of woven stitches. This is actually laid work. This is a lattice stitch right here and here. Then I've got my flowers, which again, lots of back stitching. I used mostly tapestry wool, DMC's tapestry wool, and the cotton Redder's mat throughout here. So you can see this is the tapestry wool. It has a nice thick appearance. And then the cotton Redder's mat throughout here. You can see not quite as thick as the tapestry wool, but it still visually stands out. So that is the latest hoop from my series, Inspired by Imagery. If you follow the hashtag on Instagram, you can see all the other projects that I have worked on with the Inspired by Imagery series. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you get a chance, check out my satin stitching tutorial and the class, The Trio of Cosmos, and also how to attach your hoop or your work to a square hoop. So if you work on either of those projects, I hope you enjoy them, and I hope this inspires you in your embroidery. Happy stitching!